Welcome to Municipal Affairs. Last month, municipal leaders from across Atlantic Canada, including mayors, deputy mayors, wardens, and much more, convened in St. John, New Brunswick for the Atlantic Mayors Congress. Against the backdrop of growing cross border trade tensions between Canada and the United States, this year's theme was clear: collaboration. From large urban centers to small rural communities, leaders came together to confront shared challenges, explore common ground, and chart a course forward for their respective municipalities. Now, we were on the ground at this year's Congress speaking with municipal leaders from the province of Newfoundland and Labrador and the province of Prince Edward Island at the heart of local governance, asking simple questions about why they came, what they hope to achieve, and what collaboration truly means in today's municipal landscape. On the final day of the Congress, we spoke with Charlottetown Mayor Philip Brown about what collaboration means for his community and how it takes time and patience to get it done correctly. Mayor Brown, thank you so much for chatting.
Thank you,
last
Chris.
Day of the Atlantic Mayors Congress here in beautiful St. John's, New
Beautiful
Brunswick.
day.
Beautiful day, and
Yeah.
especially after the last two fog days. What brings you here to the Atlantic Mayors Congress?
Well, the theme brought me here. It's all about collaboration, cooperation, and that's what we need more of in our local communities, whether it's the maritime provinces, the Atlantic provinces, Canada as a whole. But I'm looking more at the focus on municipalities working together. The federal government is asking the provincial governments and the territories to take down those barriers, trade barriers. Well, we have to start making more efforts to work together. Give you an example, Chris. In the city of Charlottetown, we have the capital region. It includes Stratford, town of Cornwall, and Charlottetown. You know, we could look at a regional water and wastewater utility. We can look at our active transportation pathways. We're linking them together with a lot of help from the federal and provincial governments. So these are steps that all focus on collaboration.
So what does collaboration mean in the context of Charlottetown?
Sharing services,
Okay.
and maintaining strong local governments. It's not about that A word, annexation, amalgamation. It's not about that. And I think Andrew Beckett mentioned that yesterday from Envisions St. John, talking about, I was always, let's bring more communities together, make it more holistic, working together as an amalgamated community. I'm not talking about amalgamation, annexation, shared services, strong communities.
So what do you do with the information you've gathered here? Because you wanted to come here to talk about collaboration. You're
That's
going
right.
back to Charlottetown either today or tomorrow, depending on when you
We're
leave.
going back today, but our new CAO, I think you've met him,
Yep.
Brad McConnell, our former police chief, he also envisions that collaboration, cooperation amongst our three partners in the capital region of the Charlottetown area. And he's focused on it, I'm focused on it. We're going to try to get back into Charlottetown. We will be, I think, Mayor Ogden will, for the town of Stratford,
yeah.
will be responsible for the next capital region mayors meeting, and that's going to be on the agenda.
Is collaboration easy in today's world?
No, because there's that fear that if you start working regionally, start working in a cooperative, collaborative way, that A word is just behind there. I want to keep that away from it, keep that away from the discussion, keep that away from even the thinking process going forward. Let's work together, let's walk together, let's get some things done.
Awesome. Mayor Brown, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
For Dan Kutcher, the mayor of Summerside, Prince Edward Island, he said that attending this year's Congress can bring about positive change in the community by speaking with municipal leaders from across Atlantic Canada. Mayor Kutcher, thank you so much for chatting with me. We are here at the Atlantic Mayors Congress in beautiful downtown St. John, New Brunswick. As the mayor of Summerside, Prince Edward Island, what brings you here to hear from many municipal leaders from across the Atlantic region?
Yeah, well, first of all, this happens every year, and it's one of my favorite events that I go to in this capacity. So I find this Mayor's Congress, the Atlantic Mayors Congress, we talk about really substantive issues that really matter in our communities, and we know that they are the same issues from one to the other. So there's so much value in sitting down, sharing best practices, finding opportunities to collaborate, and the program is usually fantastic. So I always look at this as one of the highlights of the things I get to go to.
You talk about collaboration. That seems to be the theme of this year's Atlantic Mayors Congress is collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. In the Summerside context, what does collaboration mean to the municipality?
Yeah, I think it's critical in terms of achieving any kind of success on any file for a community. Whether it's just within your organization or within the city, it's not an individual, it is a whole group and a whole team. And we've always taken a really collaborative approach in Summerside, whether we're dealing with a micro issue that's just a Summerside issue with different players in the city, or whether we're dealing with bigger issues that require all levels of government. So I sort of see it as it is an essential ingredient to any kind of municipal success. So
is it hard to collaborate in the political environment that we live in right now, or do you find the municipal level of government collaboration is much easier than traditionally federal or provincial?
Yeah, it's always evolving. I guess it's always evolving, and it's easier to collaborate with some people than others. There's no question about that. One of the things that I always look for is to collaborate with people who you can disagree with on certain things, understand each other's perspective, and we don't all have to agree on everything, but separate that from the next issue. And those are always the people you're looking to work with. One, because they give you valuable feedback when they do disagree with you, because usually it's well informed, and so is yours. But then they look for the next opportunity. So you're looking for like-minded people who really, at the end of the day, just want to affect and create positive change in our communities, in our provinces, and in our country. And those are the people you try and collaborate and work with, and the others you don't really have that much time for.
Housing seems to be the second big topic that a lot of people are talking about, especially in the first day opening session. I know last year at the Atlantic Mayor Congress in Summerside, housing was the major topic. Since last year, has the housing file gone away, or is it still as prevalent as today as it was last year when you were hosting?
Yeah, no, certainly not gone away, but I sort of see the issue starting to separate into two issues, and I think that's really important. There's the actual access to attainable housing, so making sure there's enough housing and enough variations of forms of housing for people wherever they are in their life, whether they're just moving in as a new entrant to the housing market, whether they're starting a new family and moving into another type of need of housing, or whether the kids have left and they're stepping into something smaller. And on that, I think Summerside in particular, and I think a lot of the municipalities here have had a lot of really good success, and there's a lot of building going on and a lot of development addressing the lack of housing, and I always think of the lack of bedrooms as well. The second issue on the housing piece that I think we're talking about quite a bit here today are the unhoused vulnerable population, and how the factors such as we're looking at a multi-layered issue that has a justice component, that has a health component, and that has a housing component. And so it's time to really try and figure out how those three pieces of the puzzle can work together to address this ongoing unhoused population. And it's impacting our communities. It's making people feel less safe. It is dangerous and difficult for the people who are unhoused. And it's also difficult and dangerous for the rest of the community. So if we don't tackle the underlying issues, especially the upstream points, and whether that's dealing with the importation and distribution of illegal narcotics and drugs and drug addiction, treating mental illness in effective ways in our communities, we're going to continue to struggle with this issue.
Are you optimistic about the future of it, though?
I'm optimistic about everything in the future, otherwise I'd have to go do something else or find someone else. So that's what keeps you going, right? So always optimistic that there are solutions out there, and keep your head up and look for them. And that's the enjoyable part.
So the last question before I let you get back into the conference here, but what do you do with the information you've gathered here today to take it back to Summerside? Because the work can't stop the moment you get back to Summerside. The collaboration work, the work on incivility, which we're going to be talking about tomorrow. What do you do with the information to ensure that what you learned here, what your council members as well, because I know Bruce McDougall, your councillor from Summerside, president of PEI, is here, to ensure that the work doesn't stop?
Yeah, so first thing for me in terms of going back is to put the brakes on for a second, because it takes so much out of this. And I have sort of a collection of notes that I build up on my phone, and I'm sure driving people in Summerside crazy who I'm sending emails to saying, why don't we do this? We should look at that. First thing I'll do is go back and put a little break on and say, okay, how does what we talked about here today fit with the priorities and path that we're on in Summerside, and what do I need to tackle, and what can I wait for later? Because the reality is you can't. I'd love to do everything that we're talking about here today. I'd love to have action on all these fronts, but we'll pick a few of them. But ultimately, there's already a few takeaways. There's people I need to reconnect with on files that are already active. So I've got a list of things. And these conferences, this one in particular, also kind of inspires you to keep going and to find new ways to get things done. So, yeah,
Mayor
quite a
Kutcher,
bit.
thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
As someone who's been attending the Congress for some years, Torbay, Newfoundland and Labrador Mayor Craig Scott said that this year's Congress is a great way to meet with mayors and CEOs to discuss the shared similarities across the region. Mayor Scott, thank you so much for chatting with me at the Atlantic Mayors Congress here in beautiful, foggy St. John, New Brunswick. As mayor of your community, what brings you here, and why is it important for Torbay to be at the Atlantic Mayors Congress?
I think I started coming to the Atlantic Mayors Congress in 2001, maybe. First one was in St. John's, and then I went to Halifax. And I find the discussion here, as opposed to FCM where I was a couple of weeks ago, more relevant to us as a municipality, because we're all kind of speaking the same language here in Atlantic Canada, and we're having the same issues. And it's interesting to hear the potential solutions and the projects and the things that our fellow municipalities are doing here in Atlantic Canada, and try and bring that home and apply it to what we're doing.
What's that language that they're speaking here this week? Because I'm hearing about collaboration. What is the language that you're hearing as the mayor?
I was really impressed by the presentation this morning regarding economic development with Engage St. John's and the
Regional,
other ones.
yeah.
The regional economic development opportunities that are happening right now on my doorstep of our town. And I was encouraged to hear that just because it's St. John's, CBS, and Paradise that are involved in that right now, that Torbay and other towns like Portrait Cove, St. Philip's, and Lugby, Mila Cove, Otter Cove are not overlooked in that, and that they're hoping probably to come forward with something, I don't know, a plan to probably involve us more into, and I think that's kind of exciting.
One of the big things, like as I just said, was about collaboration. That seems to be the hot topic in this year's convention with the Canada Games, and then we're going to be talking about collaborations between provincial and municipal organizations later on today. What does collaboration mean from a Torbay perspective?
I think that we do collaboration really well. So our volunteer fire department, for instance, we have a fire station in Flat Rock, and we partner with them to do fire services. We're looking at other options of things that we can do. We just did a regional fire study to find out how good is our fire department that we have now. There are opportunities for us to expand it, to do more in the region. We get together as mayors of the Killick Coast area we used to do it on a more regular basis, but it gets more and more difficult sometimes to be able to get together. But our staff, our managers and CAOs, they meet regularly to talk about what's going on in the region and how we can work together and what are types of things that we can do. So, I think it's important when you're we're not a smaller municipality. We're 8,000, so it's a large municipality in our area, and I think that there might be opportunities for us to be able to work with the smaller ones around us to be able to expand our service footprint or to share some services and reduce costs on our neighbours and on ourselves, and provide better things. So to me, that's what collaboration is about, and finding ways to do that better.
Last question before I let you get back at it. What happens after you leave here? Because I'm assuming the work can't stop the moment you leave St. John, head back to Torbay.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that the work that you've started here today, this weekend, with mayors from across the Atlantic region, doesn't end the moment you leave the borders of St. John, New Brunswick?
Well, I think what's important is I'm not here by myself. Our CAO is here with me. So he is hearing what I'm hearing, and I'm sure making notes and mental notes and collaborating with the other CAOs and staff people that are here, because ultimately they're the ones to implement council's vision and council's decisions that we make. And if I bring something back, it's great to have him there with me to be able to add to something I may have missed or notice something that we could be doing as a municipality to try and make things better for my community. That's the bottom line. That's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do.
Awesome. Mayor Scott, always a pleasure.
All right, thank you very much.
Heading back to Prince Edward Island, Stratford Mayor Steve Ogden was in attendance and spoke about the key takeaways from this year's Congress. Mayor Ogden, thank you so much for chatting with me. We are here at the Atlantic Mayors Congress in beautiful St. John, New Brunswick. From your perspective as mayor of Stratford PEI, what brings you here?
Well, I'm on a learning quest, as most of the people here are. We're learning about best practices in other jurisdictions, as well as hearing from experts in various fields. We just heard an excellent presentation by the person who wrote the Towards Prosperity, the prescription for Atlantic Canada. He works with Don Mills, David Campbell, and it was an excellent presentation. It put a prescription forward for what we need to do as Atlantic Canadians to really move our region forward. So here in St. John, some of the positive things they're doing to cooperate and collaborate regionally to move their economy forward, to encourage entrepreneurship and new business growth.
One of the big things that this conference is about collaboration. How does, before I ask that question, I'm going to ask this, what does collaboration mean to the town of Stratford?
Well, it means two things. It means, first of all, looking at how we can make the best use of taxpayers' money to provide services and programs to residents. But the second thing it means is really protecting our unique identity in the sense that getting the advantages of amalgamating with larger centres by collaborating and making agreements on different sectors, but at the same time maintaining our independence and the essential services so that we're masters of our own destiny in the areas that we need to be, so we can respond to residents' concerns in a timely manner. Really, if you carried the whole argument about amalgamation to its logical conclusion, all of our Atlantic Canadian provinces would be one province, but that's not going to work because we have our own need to provide services to our citizens, and I think municipalities are the same way. We're a very viable community. We're 12,500 people. We need we've grown very quickly. Excuse me. And we don't have all the recreational, especially recreational infrastructure, as well as other infrastructure that we need. So really, collaboration means trying to get the best value for taxpayers' dollars by working with other jurisdictions to deliver the services and programs in the most efficient and effective manner.
And how do events like the Atlantic Mayors Congress allow you and help you, and I say you as the royal you, as the town of Stratford, prepare for that collaboration work? Because I'm assuming through networking you're meeting with people from Nova Scotia, Newfoundland,
Absolutely.
New Brunswick. What do you do when you go home to make sure that the work you started here today doesn't end when you get back to Stratford on Sunday?
Well,
Saturday?
first of all, I think there's some takeaways. There's a book that's been written toward prosperity that I plan to take with me and make available to council and to any resident who wants it. As well, I think some of the lessons that we learn and some of the friendships and relationships that we build at these conferences really lead to not making the same mistake that other jurisdictions made, but also taking an approach that worked for them and investing in that success and really carrying those lessons forward.
Awesome. Mayor Ogden, thank you so much for doing this. I told you a few minutes, so thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of the day.
Okay, thank you.
And finally, we spoke with the executive director of the Atlantic Mayors Congress, Craig Pollett, about this year's gathering and his takeaways from the 3-day event. Craig, thank you so much for chatting with me. We're on our final day of the Atlantic Mayors Congress, and people are starting to head home. You got a few sessions left. Overall, as executive director, what's your feeling like after the last 3 days?
I'm delighted. Everything, I mean, from an organizer's point of view, you worry about, is everything going to go well on the venue? Is food going to show up on time? Is the food going to be good? And you worry about the agenda. Will they engage with the agenda? And we've hit it out of the park. Well, I didn't, but the speakers were fantastic. The conversations, the engagement with the speakers, the conversations after the sessions has all been fantastic. The venue, the St. John Trade and Convention Center, has been excellent. Great room, great staff, great food. So the vibe has been really, really, really solid. I think everybody's enjoying themselves. And, you know, we had this theme of collaboration that we sort of wove through the agenda. And I didn't hit people over the head with it, but they sort of got it, I think. I'm really happy about that.
So what are you hoping that the delegates take away and when they start heading back to their own communities later on this afternoon, what are you hoping that their key takeaway from this year's convention is, or this spring or summer convention?
Summer, whatever. Yeah. Well, in Atlantic Canada, June can be any of the above.
After the last few days of
it could be fall. It could be the fall. I think the key takeaway is, well, I always want them to hear something, maybe not about a topic they don't know about, but maybe new information about that topic. So there's really good conversations yesterday about U.S. trade, about economic development in general, and I think they learned some things that maybe they didn't know that'll help them when they get home. The big thing I'm hoping they take away is that we really are at a point in time when collaboration is sort of a must-do now, and that there are ways to do it. And maybe the political barriers to collaboration between municipalities are starting to erode or need to be eroded, because we really are in a different world, economically, socially, in terms of governance, geopolitical stuff going on. So I hope that's the key takeaway most of them have, that when they get back to their office, that they're thinking more broadly about how they can work with their neighbors.
Over the last few days, I've been asking a simple question to each of the people I've been chatting with, and I'm going to ask the very simple question to you as well. What does collaboration mean in the context of the Atlantic Mayors Congress?
In the context of Atlantic Mayors Congress, it means, to be honest, my perspective on it is...
As the executive director.
As the executive director, it's the reason we exist, right? I see the Atlantic Mayors Congress as the venue for collaboration. So if we can spark those kinds of discussions between municipalities, if we can spark that kind of discussion between, we had the provincial territorial associations here yesterday, all of the municipal associations in the region, 4 of them. If we can be the place where those kinds of conversations start happening and that kind of collaboration starts happening, then that's sort of why we exist, I think. There is no Atlantic regional entity for municipalities. There's no other meeting in Atlantic Canada for municipal folks. We're it. So if we can play that role and bring them together, and when they leave here, you know, if a couple of them are walking out the door talking to each other about how they can work together next month, next year, then our job is done.
Awesome. Craig, always a pleasure.
Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's conversations and gained some valuable insights from the Atlantic region of Canada when it comes to municipal issues. We also want to take a moment and thank the Atlantic Mayors Congress for inviting us and having us at this year's Congress in beautiful St. John, New Brunswick. To stay in the loop with all of our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube, and follow us on social media. To learn more about the communities and the people we feature on this show and our sister shows, visit us online at crossborderinterviews.ca. Now, your support means the world to us, so share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and help keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll be back with a brand new episode of Municipal Affairs shortly.